Now, I've got a special timer up there. No, I haven't. Too good. I'm talking about the tongue and what thank you, Yona, what sort of a struggle the tongue can cause us. I'll start with a story. A few years back, one of my pastoral colleagues, and you'll probably work it out as I tell you, was doing the notices one night in our evening congregation. No, one morning, sorry, in our evening congregation. And he had to do a condolence notice for somebody. And he did that fine. And then, just as he normally said, he just continued on afterwards without really thinking and said, that's okay though, life goes on. And and as he said it, there's this murmuring through the congregation. Dave Lovell was down the front and just held his head in his hands. And we had a great joke with him afterwards. But it emphasises that words are one of those things you just can't take back. Once they're out there, sometimes you want to grab them and you can't. And James is a book of the New Testament, and he says a little bit about our tongues that's really helpful. In James chapter 3, he describes some of the pitfalls of the tongue and some of the struggles we have with it and what we can do about it. And I'll just summarise it for you. He essentially says our tongue is small, but it's powerful. There's lots of power that happens with our tongue and the words we say. And you will experience that in your life. You will have experienced that in your life. It's a powerful thing for good and for bad. And he goes on to say then that the tongue is small, but it's polluting as well. It can cause all sorts of ill for us ourselves. It's only just a little part of our bodies, but it pollutes us. It pollutes our character. It pollutes our image. It pollutes our reputation when we use it badly. And James likens it to a fire. It starts with just a spark. Maybe somebody just dropping a cigarette butt or a little spark out of a barbecue or something, and suddenly, whoosh, you've got a big fire that you don't know what to do with and can cause all sorts of trouble. I'm about to drop this. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, it's all good now. Yep. The tongue also reveals what's going on inside, James says. And he says it's a strange thing that for Christians that blessing and cursing can come from the same person, from the same tongue. He said it doesn't make sense. And especially for people who say they belong to Jesus, they represent God, he's right. It doesn't make sense when our tongues tell lies about who we represent. I've sometimes thought of the image of, going to the water tap. And as you turn a water tap on, you expect water to come, don't you? Imagine how strange it would be if you turned the water tap on and Coke came. You would think, wow, I know, you might think, yeah, cool. But you would think this just doesn't make sense. It's not right. It shouldn't be this way. And it's the same for us with our tongues when we use them badly, when we use them for bad things. And all of you have been affected by something other people have said at different times. And I can guarantee that all of you have said things that have affected other people badly. And the sad thing is we can never take our words back. So what do we do with all that? Well, I've got about 6 things for you. Okay, firstly, be realistic. This is what we're like. It's easy for our mouth to be ahead of our brain and for us to say things we regret. So be realistic about that. Remember, as you start to speak, hang on, I want to keep my brain ahead of my mouth, not my mouth ahead of my brain. Secondly, be listening more and speaking less. That's a reality. If you are spending less time speaking and more time listening, well, there's less chance you're tripping up, isn't there? It also means you're probably more interesting to talk to at times. If you can practice being a good listener, it helps you in conversation. Thirdly, be careful. Very, very rarely will being slow to speak or slow to use your thumbs on social media be a mistake. But very often it will be true that speaking quickly or using your thumbs quickly can cause all sorts of damage. And in being careful, resist the urge to talk about other people. Resist the urge to tell other people's story. Resist the urge to know more details. Do you get that? Resist the urge to know more details about something. Sometimes the less you know, the less you got a chance to gossip about it. And that's just a reality. Resist the urge to present yourself as something you are not, either exaggerating a story or presenting a social media impression that is not truth. So be realistic, be listening more, be careful, be helpful first and truthful second, i.e., is what I'm going to say here going to be good and helpful? Ask that question. Sometimes we share the truth with people and actually it's not helpful at all. And we should be thinking, how will I be helpful here? Be gracious with people and be willing to forgive them. We're in the same boat. We all say things we wish we hadn't. Be willing to forgive people. Be willing to be gracious to them and forgive them when they do that to you. And finally, be hopeful. If our tongue set on fire by hell can cause such chaos, on the other side of the coin, God's Spirit living in us, empowering our tongues, is something really good and something that God plans to use for all sorts of good. So thank you, and I hope that's helpful for you.